cette session, je demande...
So for this session, please put your hands together to welcome Morgane KABLAN, who is the COO of Leja. She's come all the way from Nairobi to be here with us. Then we have Hassen ARFAOUI. He works at 216 Capital Ventures. Hasna, who is a representative of Orange. Online, we also have Mathias, LEOPOLDIE, who is the co-founder and CEO of Julaya. So, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Julie Lancret-Gori, who will be animating and moderating the session. Thank you so much, Samir. It's a real delight for me to be able to moderate this session all about Fintech. It's fantastic to have a representative of Orange with us for this fantastic Fintech plenary session. So we have Morgane KABLAN. Nice to meet you. It's a delight to have you here. You're here all the way from Nairobi, and you're going to tell us about Leja. So it's a 100% digital fintech company. It's a Kenyan micro enterprise. Then we have Hassen ARFAOUI, who's with us all the way from Tunisia and works at 216 Capital Ventures. It works on fintech, among other areas too. We're going to be talking about this later. Here we also have Mathias LEOPOLDIE, the co-founder and CEO of Julaya. He works in Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal and Benin, and he describes himself as a neobank and uses 100% digital services for African entrepreneurs. We will also be hearing about Yasmin Aifer's vision from Orange. So, indeed, fintech is one of the most dynamic sectors in the context of African entrepreneurship, and we have really seen a boom over the last 10 years in this area. So fintech is something that you need to be in Africa to speak about, because it covers 2/3 of the banking transactions in the continent. So in 2011, there was a level of 23% of access to bank services, and now we have over 50%, largely thanks to mobile money. So the last 15 years have really been a turning point in accessing banking services in Africa, especially in rural areas. We're going to be speaking about women. We'll also be going to hearing from a field specialist who specializes in financial inclusion through fintech. And Morgane, I'm going to ask you the first question. How does your disruptive business model facilitate access to banking services? I think that one of the biggest challenges of African financial institutions is the lack of funding. So micro entrepreneurs represent quite a large proportion of 80% indeed of the situation. It's difficult for them to justify their solvability. It's not because they're insolvable, but they can have trouble with accessing documents and that kind of thing. So we've seen that a lot of micro entrepreneurs use mobile banking. The major challenge, because they don't necessarily have the right paperwork, is for them to be able to use their personal bank accounts for their professional transactions. So there's a real mix-up. Once again, it really prevents them from justifying the existence of their business and therefore their solvability. So, as a result of this, we developed a digital solution, which is a digital accounting solution, which helps them consolidate their banking transactions, even if they came from their personal mobile account. This gives them the opportunity of accessing consolidated transactions for their business and evaluate their solvability and their ability to make payments.
Thank you very much, Morgane.
So that's a great opportunity. Next, Hassen, when we speak about challenges, can you tell us about your vision as an investor? How do you see fintech in Africa? First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a real privilege to be here. And congratulations on organizing this event. Indeed, before this panel, we've spoken about the issues a lot. The biggest challenge is the diversity of regulations across all of the different jurisdictions. Each country develops its own regulations, which leads to problems of interoperability. So that's the first challenge. The second is accessing information and accessing data. So for me, apologies, might have a bit of a sore throat today. So of course it is incredibly important for startups. So we need to develop other alternatives, such as different algorithms, other services which are more smart based, if I can use the term. Another issue is the unequal access to internet in certain regions. So a startup needs to develop specific solutions to each and every country based on their level of infrastructure. And the last challenge, or at least the penultimate challenge, is the management of skills. So we are currently seeing huge levels of migration and brain drain, which creates a huge problem for startups, not just fintech startups, but any kind of startup. For them to have the right kind of profile and oversee the continuity and efficiency for African startups. Great, thank you very much. Now, let's talk about digital technology. We have Mathias, who is joining us from Abidjan. What are the technological solutions which are at the heart of your new approach to financial inclusion? Hello there, I hope you can hear me okay. Thank you so much for inviting me. Apologies, I couldn't make it there in person. I had some travel issues. So I agree what was said about mobile money. It is indeed a solution, which is very specific to the African continent. 3/4 of the transactions happen, so it's billions of euros in Africa, are done on mobile banking. And Orange, for example, is a telecoms company, which is present in Africa and wants to support entrepreneurs with their digital solutions. This is why we work alongside infrastructures to enable enterprises and companies to diversify their options. So business payments can sometimes be done in cash, and we want to promote the idea of doing online transactions rather than having to deposit cash. And since 2018, we are not really a bank, but we're kind of an infrastructure for telecoms communications, so that we can build, as is already being done in Africa, transaction opportunities to provide banking services for businesses. Thank you very much, Mathias. We've spoken about challenges and solutions, and now let's talk about impact. What kind of impact have you had on communities through fintech? So, Mathias, what can you tell us about the impact that you have seen today directly in the communities that you are speaking with?
Digitalizing cash helps impact on a wide scale. So first of all, with regard to safety, mobile money is a safer way of making payments in potentially dangerous areas. So
You might have payments being done from Africa overseas, and it's a real
way of making transactions safer. One third of the transactions are to pay salaries. So this might be in construction, logistics, or industry. Beforehand, sometimes people had to wait a long time to receive their salaries. Now it is at the click of a button. So thousands of employees can receive their wages very, very easily, thanks to our solution. And then, macroeconomically speaking, it's a real asset for the countries, because it
can really help the digital economy through fintech and e-commerce. There's a lot less examples of cash on delivery. We're seeing payments being made online, and the digital economy is based on this. So thank you very much, Mathias. And now I'm going to hand over to Morgane KABLAN. The same question goes to you. How have you adapted your model to help rural communities? As I mentioned, we work with micro-entrepreneurs, so individuals that might have a few businesses that they're running at the same time. And so what we're seeing on the market is that all of the B2B solutions are not adapted whatsoever to the reality that micro-entrepreneurs face. So to access this solution, we will ask you to provide us with certain documentation, a bank account, and a computer so that you can actually use it. So a lot of the time, this is what our users don't have. Therefore, what we have done is get rid of these obstacles and propose a digital solution which can be used on any kind of telephone, smart or not, with USSD features.
People need no accounting or technical skills to use our application, and it can be used with or without internet, which helps our users to use our application even if they don't have access to internet. The second thing, which is quite original, is that we have created our own verification system for our users' companies. So we'll ask you for your name, your telephone number, and your business number. And then depending on what kind of business you do, we will have different cases. So let's say that you are a small-scale shopkeeper. Let's say that you have your permit to set up your market that you pay for. Let's say that you're a taxi driver. So it's very flexible, and it is applicable to different uses that we see. This enables our users to access our application as soon as they register. And they will do their transactions on their mobiles thanks to our platform, and therefore we can check the solvability and reliability of these businesses. Okay, so just for everyone who is here, perhaps you could tell us about a success story that you have had of people using your solution. Yes, we have been around for 3 years. And we have 5,000 users on our platform. Thanks to all of the data that we have collected on our platform, we have created our own credit scoring platform. We have deployed $3 million of microcredit, and we have a default level of 3%. So it's a pilot project. We have signed an agreement with a Kenyan commercial bank so that we can propose these services to our users. So we're really excited to see this unveil. It's great for business users, business owners to actually finally be able to open a bank account properly that is entirely dedicated to their companies. So
you're working in close collaboration with banks. Great. So, Mathias, could you tell us about another example of a success story that you might have had that has impacted a community? In Senegal, we work with KABLAN. It's a company that distributes water all around Senegal. In some regions, it was difficult to distribute water because it was difficult to get payments in cash. Some regions had difficult access to drinkable water. Okay, we're now going to focus the last part of our panel so that we can hear a vision and perspective of fintech in Africa. Let's speak about regulations. So Hassen and then Morgane. Actually, Morgane, can you tell us about the situation in Eastern Africa? What kind of progress are you seeing regulations-wise? The regulatory framework has changed a lot over the past few years, specifically concerning fintech. We have seen a lot of things happening to foster innovation, and banks and fintech have been collaborating. So service providers such as ourselves have been able to provide banking services. And for the investors, it's great to have a more specific framework that enables foreign investments to potentially come in, so it's more attractive investment-wise, and this means that we're constantly having to monitor the system and the regulations. Of course, compliance needs to be respected as well. So that is why it is so important that fintech is part of these development processes in the context of regulatory considerations. And when experimenting business models such as ours, it's important to be clear and specific so that we can protect all of the stakeholders. Okay, so we've seen this in Eastern Africa. Now we need to think about Western Africa and the rest of the continent. So Hassen, you are an investor, you have a doctrine of investment, and I'm sure that that influences the kind of choices that you make. What is your doctrine about, and how does that influence the fintech market? As an investor, my major preoccupation is whether or not the startup is able to adapt to the challenges that we mentioned earlier on. So can they adapt to the market reality? This is why there needs to be a value proposition which is adapted to the market. They also need to be able to alternate between offline and online. A lot of things in Africa are done online, so it's important for these entrepreneurs to be able to be flexible and work offline as well, just in case. This helps them develop their strategies and their reports and that kind of thing. So we are extremely optimistic about the finance sector. And we are seeing a lot more adaptability to digital technologies. We are seeing growth in financial inclusion, and we are also seeing that startups are reducing the gap between those who have bank accounts and those who don't. The income in the fintech sector in 2015 was $150 billion. Thank you very much, Mathias. Can you get out your crystal ball for us and tell us about the coming trends in the African market? I hope I'm right in saying that fintech is all about going beyond conventional banking services, because at the moment payment infrastructures are not necessarily always suitable, so it's up to approach governments and talk to them about these issues. We want fintech giants to come to the forefront. And we've seen this in Brazil, in Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa as well as Northern Africa. There's a very small level of switch between the different transactions. So some countries have implemented this and some haven't. So that's more on the government level. Then the Central Bank of Western Africa has presented a system all about interoperability. This is the kind of thing that we can change in infrastructure. And beyond that, I think it's more about having more products, such as credit products, right up into insurance. Telephone operators are looking at creating partnerships with banks and insurance companies, and I think that that is the next step. Great, so product diversification. Thank you very much, Mathias. I'm going to bring this session to a close by asking Hassen the last question. So how do you see the next trends in the African fintech market? I think that many factors are going to contribute to the growth of this this sector in the market. I think it's all about adapting to issues and the collaboration of stakeholders. We have seen stakeholders. We have seen startups working alongside regulators, and we have also seen leapfrogging technology, where we've seen great leaps and bounds in the sector. Blockchain is being used by startups, and some models are being used, so it's a very interesting time. However, we are also seeing a deceleration in terms of fundraising. The first quarter in 2023, there was a reduction. So, of course, fundraising has actually been on the decrease worldwide. So thank you very much, Mathias, Morgane, and Hassen. So goodbye, Mathias. And we're going to bring this panel to a close by asking our Orange representative, Yasmin Aifa. Let's hear more about the Orange Digital Communications Center. Tell us about the inclusive vision that you have as part of the Orange Digital Communications Center. Thank you very much. I just wanted to say bravo to Mathias, because he's one of our success stories, and he has an excellent startup that has done a lot of work in Africa, and it is included in Orange Champions book. So it's called Orange Digital Champions book, and this book was published by Orange, and it's available in bookshops. We talked about 7 startups that we supported in our digital communications center, and Mathias was one of them. So congratulations. We're now going to show the video which Orange sent to us. My name is Semina, and thanks to the Orange Digital Communications Center, I'm going to tell you about an inspirational story. It's up to us to work on our future. So, thanks to Orange Digital Communications Center, this man has created a great company. Hamza became a real tech pro. Every day he learns something new. And Salma has created her own startup, which employs dozens of people these days. Orange Digital Communications Center is all about helping young people and training populations. So Orange Digital Communications Center is here to stay. It has already benefited over 1 million people, especially in Africa and the Middle East. Okay, so I will just say a few words about Orange Digital Center. These are physical centers. You know that Orange exists in 17 countries in Africa and the Middle East, and 7 in Europe plus France. And we have implemented 17 digital Orange centers in Africa and the Middle East. We have over 1 million beneficiaries. We also exist in Europe and France, and we have 25 Orange digital centers across the continent. And I think that that is the real strength of this concept. What's it about? We are present across the entire value chain, right up to acceleration, investing in startups. So we are very relevant, and of course we do incubation and fan labs, a fab lab, a startup accelerator, and Orange Digital Venture, which is an investment fund which has 50 million euros of budget for Africa. These centers are completely free and open to anyone, where young people can come and get trained. We also support startups. The real issue that we have today in the continent is that we have too few startups given the size of the continent. And this issue means that for Orange 2024's strategy, we want to develop incubation more, to have more startups in the pipeline that will be there to stand the test of time and become potentially the next African unicorn in different sectors, such as agriculture, health, the environment and energy, and e-commerce. And earlier on we spoke about Fintech. We have 86 million euros invested in the continent already. To develop entrepreneurship, we need more Fintech. And this is because we use e-commerce platforms a lot. Therefore, we need better and more influential and more solvable startups that will stand the test of time. So with regard to the incubation, we really emphasized more incubation with specific mentorship programs geared towards innovation. We want to accelerate more startups and give what the banks are not giving, so seed funds specifically. This is why we implemented a partnership with Digital Africa, so that this seed fund can exist in Africa specifically. Okay, so that's everything I have to say about Orange Digital Center. Thank you so much, Hasma. Thank you very much. A round of applause for the Orange Group, and thank you very much to all of our panelists. Please put your hands together for Morgane KABLAN, Mathias LEOPOLDIE, Hassen ARFAOUI, and Hasma Aifa. Thank you very much. We're going to take a quick group photo before moving over to the next plenary session on cultural and creative industries.